Well, hello everyone, and thanks for joining another video episode of End of the Line, where us editors at here at PMI Media Group get together and talk about what's come across our desks this week, or some of our cases where we visited and what we learned along the way. I am with editors Matt Reynolds from Packaging World, Sean Riley from OEM, and Derek Teal from Pro Food World. And I, of course, am Liz Cuneo of Healthcare Packaging. So, Sean, we were just kind of chatting before we hit record on this, but you were at a pretty cool conference, Executive Leadership, and you got to meet a celebrity. So, thought we could dive into kind of what that was like.
Sure. It was the Executive Leadership Conference for PMMI. Tons of great content for OEM that people will see in online. And I posted some things on LinkedIn. But while I was there, the keynote final speaker to kind of wrap everything up was Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. And he is very vested and invested in work. In manufacturing and in skilled labor and in trying to help, we know we have this huge workforce issue, obviously, where there's not
Mm-hmm.
enough people to fill all these jobs. And he was spitting out numbers where, there's 7 million people that are unemployed, but there's
Hmm.
7 million jobs that could go filled if they could, get skilled up to labor. So anyway, it was really cool. He gave this great presentation, and then afterwards, I got to do a podcast with him for Unpacked with PMMI. We got to talk a little bit about his foundation. PMMI donated $10,000 to his foundation, and their big thing is in trying to drive people into the trades and skilled laborers like that. They have scholarships, 2-year scholarships to trade schools and community colleges, things like that. So he's really big on getting people into manufacturing, into not just manufacturing, but all those type of, welding and, CNC and things like that. So a really cool cause. He was a really neat guy, very down to earth, easy to talk to. So it was fun.
Hey Sean,
Yeah,
Sean,
that.
did he talk about anything packaging specific? I mean, when he kind of shoots from a broader lens of manufacturing, did he have anything that was a little narrower on our corner of the manufacturing industry?
He didn't, although it set him up so well from a because he's an entertainer at first, like that is his forte or whatever, which I didn't know his background. He had been like a newscaster and stuff like that. Um,
Hmm.
but he basically the question is, what's the problem? Why can't we fill these jobs? Why is it so hard to fill these, quote these positions? And he said basically it's the packaging. We're not packaging it
Uh,
well enough. Yes. So he played off of that the entire time that, marketing, packaging of those types of jobs is really where we're lacking. But he didn't really have specifics other than kind of highlighting that again, it's not, which is ironic because his, thing was dirty jobs. To highlight that it's not the dirty, dingy, dark, dangerous, jobs that it used to be to kind of work in manufacturing. They're very high tech. A lot of it's basically all computers and stuff like that. So it wasn't specific, but it was close enough.
yeah.
But I can kind of comment on that. A lot of plants, especially new plants being built, one of the things that they're focused on is drawing labor into their plants. And a big factor in that, in the designs of these new facilities, is daylight. Believe it or not, a lot of the old
Interesting.
factories, they're just old. I mean,
Hmm.
they're boxes, windowless boxes, and refrigerated. I mean, you're in a refrigerator basically for 8 hours a day, if not longer, for your shift. And a lot of the plants I've been going to are really focusing on the amenities for their workers in not just in the plant itself, but having dedicated spaces for their employees where there is plenty of natural light. Covered a facility just last year where they have an entire, basically a curtain wall of glass in their employee space where they come out and have lunch or whatever on their breaks and they're just inundated with sunlight.
Hmm.
I heard stories from people that have, been in plants that have their entire lives that say prior to this movement of focusing on worker comfort, people would walk out of the plant, go straight to their car, and have lunch in their car by themselves.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Hmm.
so increased focus on amenities also sort of brings the employees together and creates a better culture. And I think that manufacturing overall has that reputation of, it's just hard work in a especially in food and beverage in a
Hmm.
cold, windowless environment, that there is no joy in that, and hard labor in an enclosed space. So that is definitely something that I know a lot of food and beverage manufacturers are trying to correct. Um, so anyway, it's my 2 cents on that. My participation for the week.
Yeah. Thank you, Derek. Totally. Yeah, it's interesting to see that push in manufacturing and that it's a good thing really though when we start thinking about the employee and retaining labor and making it just a more comfortable place to work. Um,
Yeah, the retention part is something that strikes me because I remember a frequent commentary, and there's these little nodes of packaging manufacturing in like Alexandria, Minnesota, and outside of Chicago and stuff, and the way that employees there are able to just kind of jump from one to the next and just kind of leverage their location for better, higher and higher salaries or higher and higher positions. There's something to be said about retaining that and retention, and I would imagine facilities are one, that's one input that you can invest in your facilities to have a little stickier of a job situation. I haven't thought about it that way, Derek. That's interesting.
Well, there are studies that have been done more with commercial office buildings, more so than manufacturing spaces, and that's with lost time. Basically, it's called sick building syndrome, where in an enclosed space, employees uh, call in sick more often, so you're losing those man hours. And I think while I don't have any specific, stats to say on this or to quote on this, I think that there is, a sick building syndrome problem with manufacturing if it is windowless. Like if I think it does translate from an office building to a manufacturing plant. Like if one place has, better views of the outside, employees are happier, come to work more often, that it would also translate to manufacturing, where if they had some light and some opportunities to see grass, let alone touch it, that, they might be able to improve their, you know, decrease their hours lost.
mhm,
Good.
totally. So kind of segueing out of the, safety and retention with labor, talking a little bit about facilities. Coming across my desk this week was actually two different healthcare product recalls, and I don't see recalls a lot. I see some FDA, kind of slaps on the wrist articles or FDA news, but two specific branded products were recalled this week. One was Xanax. I saw that this morning, recalled nationwide for not passing quality control tests concerning how long the pill takes to dissolve. So, a very specific thing that it didn't pass. So it's not poisonous. It's just not dissolving at the rate that it's supposed to. And the article that I read said that could alter the way it's effective or dosage consistency for people using it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It was a pretty big recall. The other one is even actually a bigger recall is an eye drops, and this one is about the way not being able to prove that it's sterile, which is kind of scary. So we're
Yeah.
putting these eye drops in our eyes. And again, it wasn't saying that they weren't sterile, it was saying that they failed to prove that it was. So, kind of a scary recall for that one. And it's a bunch of brands across the board, private label and branded. And this was a CNN story that covered it. So, kind of some interesting things that are happening. I guess you can talk about the facility side of it too, right? So I don't know if they're skipping on the sterility testing or the dissolution testing for these products, or something went wrong. So interesting to see recalls in the space.
Do you know
I
if it,
actually
so go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just going to say that I actually saw that story and as a user of eye drops. I wear glasses and use eye drop. I was surprised at the hit that was from a private label standpoint. It was so many private label people, and they strive so hard to try to be comparable to the, marketed brands and stuff like that. That has to be, I don't know, disheartening that, they build up this brand, this private
Hmm.
label as being just as good, and to have it all be recalled like that. I guess that was just my thought on it.
I was just going to ask Liz if you knew if it was a self-reported thing or if it was something that was caught at a federal or state level.
I think the FDA caught both of them. It definitely caught the eye drop one from what I remember. Um, because FDA is, oh no, I think it caught both because both of them cite FDA. Actually, no. KC Pharmaceuticals, sorry guys, initiated the recall for the eye drops themselves. Xanax, FDA got involved and issued a warning because of the dissolution testing. So two different ways of that problem coming to light. So yeah, and it is interesting to see. And Bree's actually writing an article for us about the eye drops and kind of how that ties into the larger issue of sterilization for med device and pharma products and the really tight regulations on that. Are you an eye drop user, Derek? Is that the concern?
Yes, I do use eye drops from time to time. It's less eye drops, more contact solution. But yes,
So
I'm
let
more
me
with you.
ask you,
But
when
quick,
there's a recall, because I know I feel like recalls were more your space, right? In pro food world, are
yeah,
they getting a citation from someone, or are they recalling it themselves
it
that
it
something
it,
went
re
wrong?
it really depends. Sometimes it is self-reported that they find something that within their a plant's own quality checks that okay, we're not positive on this, so we're just going to recall it to be better safe than sorry. There was a case earlier this month involving Dino chicken nuggets with Walmart that the FDA said that there were high levels of lead in some of the
Okay.
product that went out. But it turns out that in subsequent testing, that they didn't find any higher levels of lead, and
Hmm,
the FDA, FSIS, uh, actually recalled the recall, redacted or retracted the recall. Walmart, though, for its to its credit, is continuing on as if there was a recall, and so they are trying to uh, get back all that product that went out, as well as conduct internal testing to see how uh, this false positive, I guess, actually happened. So yes, but there are, so in this case, yes, it was an FDA or a federal level uh,
hmm,
uh, uh, catch, but sometimes it is an individual company recalling it on their own.
interesting.
Yeah, a lot going on with Walmart. I was talking to you guys last week about the
Hmm.
horizontal pressure. Um, or this past week again, a similarly large company. Um, I guess backing up a little bit, the horizontal pressure thing is the question is that going to be a standard, or is it going to be a Walmart standard? You know, and increase. I would say a lot of these big companies have been fairly hands off on creating their own standards. Now, Walmart's definitely been I guess, guilty of creating their own standard because they're kind of a wag the dog. When they
Oh,
move, then the industry moves with it, not the other way around.
Hmm.
Amazon actually has similar power, and uh, what they say goes in terms of secondary packaging for everything that you order that comes through the e-commerce supply chain. So one interesting thing is I think we've all heard of SIOC, ships and own container, that turned to SIP with SIPP, which is ships in product packaging. So these are sort of Amazon standards, but they still defer to largely uh, ISTA, which is the International Safe Transit Association standard. So I was interested, and I heard from Paul Larson at Amazon about this kind of balance between making your own standards versus having more of a universal standards that the Costco's and the Walmarts and the Amazons all could adhere to. And what was interesting is it they do tend to defer to the wider third-party standards, which is good news for brands, I think. But why they do it, it's not altruism, really. It's more like a benign self-interest because they need these sellers. What makes Amazon so great is they've got this what they call a flywheel of growth, where if they have a good consumer experience, the package gets the product to you on time, then you will buy more. If you buy more, then there's more sellers. Sellers are brands and CPGs. If there's more sellers, then there's a wider selection on Amazon. If there's a wider selection on Amazon, that means that the consumer is going to go back to take advantage of this wider selection. So it becomes this virtuous for Amazon, virtuous circle. And Paul, his point was how important packaging is in that Flywheel, because when you think about how crucial packaging is, whether it was 10 years ago with frustration-free packaging to SIAC and SIP now, packaging really is an input into the consumer experience, whether your product gets to your home without leaking intact and that sort of thing. So again, their deferential nature to ISTA and ASTM and some of these standards organizations is interesting. But one thing that kind of fly in the ointment, it does sound like, and you heard it here first, does sound like the large products at Amazon, and this is coming, this might be coming, it's on their radar. We know that the medium-sized products like televisions have a certain standard for ships and own and product because there was so much damage and stuff. So 20 to 50, 60 pound mid-sized things have to be ships in own container or ships in product packaging, or they don't have to be, but they're incentivized to the sellers are incentivized to sell it in ships and product packaging. Well, that may begin to extend into the larger stuff, like the heavy stuff, like bicycles and you name it, whatever, a Weber grill or something like that. Really big, heavy stuff, because there's so much variability. That stuff is the most likely to get dinged and damaged in the supply chain. So that's something just to keep an eye out for is potential new standards. And when there's standards, that means all the brand owners have to line up and make some alterations in their packaging. So whether it's Walmart or Amazon or Costco, when one moves, they all tend to move together. So that's interesting stuff that I saw this week.
Yeah, really cool. I will say a friend of mine brought up this week, she ordered a gift for her husband from Amazon. And I won't say what it was, but it came completely like not in any kind of Amazon box. And so he ended up seeing it and then saw his birthday present before his birthday. So there's some of that, I like that we're saving the packaging and the paperboard, and I'm all for sustainability, of course, but then you kind of ruin, some of the surprise if you're ordering gifts, especially at Christmas, right? Can you imagine ordering your kid's bike
No.
and there it is, it's sitting in I happened to a friend of mine, I think they ordered a basketball net and it just came as a basketball net. Like I think it was in a box, but with a clear photo, and you're like, gosh darn it. But I guess that's what e-commerce is a little bit. So
Isn't there a
got to be
box you can
careful.
check?
Yeah,
Isn't
that's
there a
what I was
box
just
you can
about to
check? This
ask.
is a gift.
Well, does that help with the outer packaging, or does it just give like a gift receipt? I don't know.
Yeah, I
I've
don't
never
either. I
checked
don't
the
know that
box. I
that
just
does
know
it.
it's there.
I thought it gave you like a
A
QR
gift
code.
receipt.
Yeah, that's a gift
Yeah.
receipt so they can exchange it and not see the price of the item. But does it change the outer box? I don't know, but it's just an interesting thought as we move away from maybe less packaging in e-commerce when, we kind of run into some issues with the end user and or the consumers, I should say. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That
but
would wreck their flywheel of consumer delight kind of
yes, the
if
first
they're
thing you
giving
mentioned, and then
away presents. Yeah.
The stick in the
yeah.
flywheel.
Oh
And
yeah.
maybe at Christmas or, during some of the heavy holidays, they would be more cognizant of that as a company, but who knows? We're getting in the weeds a little bit here, but anyway, so thank you everyone. Great discussion this week about what's going on in the industry, what we're seeing. Always fun to chat. I look forward to talking to you guys next week.
Yeah, and looking forward to that podcast with Mike Rowe. Let us know when that comes out, Sean.
That will do.
Yeah, totally. Okay, bye.
Thanks. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
everybody.